Well, and maybe we can issue that warning directly to the members of the 2000 United States Olympic team who are here in attendance to watch the fight tonight. And the notion that youth might have been wasted on the young could be good news for late bloomer Vernon Forrest, who headlines the first of the two bouts you'll be seeing this evening. Forrest, a 1992 American Olympian, has waited a long time for his moment in the sun. Tonight he finally fights for a piece of the welterweight championship picture against relative unknown Raul Frank. Frank, originally from Guyana, now living in Brooklyn. As you saw on the graphic, only 4 fights in the last 23 months. He arrives here as a #1 ranked contender for a welterweight championship. In one independent ranking, Larry Merchant, he is seen as the 98th best junior middleweight in the world.
The mysteries of the mandatories, which really aren't such mysteries when you go into it. But Frank is an accomplished prize fighter in the sense that he knows how to fight.
Trained by the estimable Bobby Jackson out of Brooklyn, who has gotten some headlines in the last year or so for his adroit handling of heavyweight Oleg Moskayev, who's come more or less out of nowhere to emerge among the top 5 heavyweights in the world. And even though Raul Frank is seen by one oddsmaker as a 15-1 underdog against Vernon Forrest, Bobby Jackson promises us he's a lot better than that.
Well, he must be pretty tough because I'm told he runs in the Brownsville section of Brooklyn at 4:30 in the morning, which is fight time in that part of town.
Let's take a closer look at Raul Frank, Larry.
Raul Frank's father, who trained him early on, is a fisherman in Guyana who hunts sharks for their fins and their flesh. His brother was a fighter, KO'd by Bernard Hopkins, the middleweight title, in about 30 seconds of the first round. But he hasn't fought in 15 months, an unintended consequence of the mandatory challenge, because once fighters get there, they go into the deep freeze.
The opponent and the man who is heavily favored to win a vacant part of the welterweight title picture tonight, Vernon Forrest, made the 1992 Olympic team when he upset Shane Mosley in the box office to make the team, and since then he's been languishing, waiting for his opportunity to emerge as a big star in the sport. Unbeaten record, no big headlines so far.
He calls himself an enigma. Never heard a fighter call himself that before, mainly because it has taken him so long to get here, unlike so many other Olympians.
And he has been more or less shut out of big-time publicity in the welterweight division by the large number of talented fighters who've been there in recent years, including Pernell Whitaker, Felix Trinidad, Oscar De La Hoya, and now Shane Mosley. Forrest says, give me another crack at Mosley. I'll prove I'm as good as anybody. Here's a closer look at unbeaten Vernon Forrest.
Another aspect of that victory over Mosley as an amateur, he believes, is that as Mosley gained popularity as a professional, other fighters, seeing that victory on his record as an amateur, were refusing to fight him as a pro. He has also been caught in a family feud involving the Duvas in main events. They've split up. Lou Duva used to be his trainer. He no longer is. He remains with main events. And he says that having sparred many rounds with the great Pernell Whitaker has steeled him for his late run in the welterweight division.
As you watch this telecast, you can log on to www.hbo.com/boxing, where you can score every round of tonight's fight and join a live chat and listen to the trainer audio from last weekend's wild title fight between Prince Nassim Hamed and Augie Sanchez. Our newest feature, live streaming audio of the trainers, captured all the excitement and drama from that night. Log on and hear it for yourself. Tail of the tape now quickly for Vernon Forrest against Raul Frank. Once again, they're fighting at 147 pounds. Frank giving away 2 years at 31. Forrest, a tall welterweight at 6 feet. Frank's tall also. Just a half-inch reach advantage for Vernon, who normally has bigger advantages in the height and reach category. Tonight, Forrest weighs 151, and Frank normally fighting at 154, weighs 157. Rules of the bout, whether unofficial ringside scorer Harold Letterman.
The Vernon Forrest Raul Frank fight is scheduled for 12 rounds using the unified rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, let's go up to Mike Buffer for the official introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino of Las Vegas, where tonight Main Events and Miller Lite present Boxing After Dark on HBO. Sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, for this first bout, the 3 judges assigned at ringside will be Rick Bays, Bill Graham, and Patricia Jarman Manning. And when the bell rings, your referee in charge of the action, Kenny Bayless. And now, ladies and gentlemen, 12 rounds of boxing for the vacant I.IBF Welterweight Championship of the World. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, wearing blue trimmed with black and weighing in at 147 pounds. His professional record, 31 bouts, 31 victories, including 26 knockouts. He comes to us from Augusta, Georgia. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the I.IBF #2 ranked welterweight in the world, the undefeated Vernon the Viper Forrest. And his opponent across the ring, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing white trimmed with red and weighing in at 146½ pounds. His professional record, 23 victories, including 12 knockouts. He has 3 losses and 1 draw. He comes to us from Brooklyn, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the #1 ranked welterweight in the world, Raul Frank.
All right, ring center. Okay, fellas, we went over the rules in the dressing room. On a caution, obey my commands at all times and keep the fight clean at all times. Good luck to both of you. Touch gloves.
They're fighting for the title vacated by Felix Trinidad when he moved up to the junior middleweight division. Vernon Forrest trying to prove not that it's better late than never, but that sometimes it's better late than early.
Vernon Forrest, trained for this fight by Ronnie Shields, who's been with him for a long time, and Al Mitchell, whom you may remember as an outstanding amateur coach who trained David Reed to his prominence as a professional. Reed, incidentally, had double surgery on both eyelids day before yesterday as they continue to try to aid that droopy eyelid problem for Reed. And while Reed recovers, Mitchell trained Vernon Forrest in the gym for this fight while Ronnie Shields was spending his time with David Tua. Now, what does Vernon want to do to take advantage of his height and his range, Manuel?
Well, I think he needs to stay busy with his jab and try to keep the fight at a distance. The one thing that he does have over Raul is the fact that he's faster. The speed is going to be a big factor, I think, going down the stretch. Raul does everything very well, but just a little bit slower than Vernon. If Vernon keeps busy with his jab and studies the way that Raul picks his jab, then he'll be able to take advantage of that and to work off of his left jab.
In his last big assignment here in Las Vegas on a doubleheader with Shane Mosley last year, Forrest went 10 tough rounds with Vince Phillips, pounded Phillips from pillar to post, but couldn't put him away, and slipped in the estimation of some experts who said, well, he's not explosive enough to be with the top level of the welterweights.
Well, when you're a fighter like Vernon is, he's a good, solid fighter, just good enough where the good fighters don't want to fight him, but not exciting enough in any area where the fans and the media demand that he fights a big fight. It's very frustrating, but he's going to have to look impressive in this fight. He's fighting a fighter that no one knows too much about, and just to merely win the fight like he did with Vince Phillips would not be enough.
So Forrest bangs a left hook to the body and comes back upstairs, and Kenny Bayless says, Vernon, I think that left hook to the body was lower than I'd like to see it.
Well, the one thing that I do like about Vernon, he's very busy. He's dictating the fight. Raul is reacting to his actions for the most part.
And if you know much about the sport, you can see the speed differential. It's easy to see that Raul Frank is just a half step behind Vernon Forrest.
Yes, and he's really loading up on his left hook, but when he misses his left hook, he loses his balance. As long as Vernon blocks his punch, he can kind of maintain his balance, but if Vernon makes him miss completely, you'll see him spin around.
There's a red spot above the left eye of Raul Frank, as it appears that already a Forrest right hand has brought a trickle of blood.
Right, step back clean, fellas. Here we go. Step back clean. Hurry.
One of the mistakes I think that Vernon is making in his last fight, he was criticized by his trainer, Ronnie Shields, for fighting, leaning in too close and not utilizing his height.
Huh? No. All right, look, just relax. Just relax. Don't worry about nothing, all right? I know. But you're forgetting about a few things. You're throwing the jab from the out. You're reaching with the jab a little bit, okay? And that's why you miss with the right hand. If you don't touch him with this, you ain't gonna hit him with this one, okay? Step up a little more. Yeah, another thing is,
Give me the water. I got it. Give me the water. Don't suppress it. Just leave it there. Raul, a little bit more jabs, okay? Come on. Close round. Okay, but nice round. I want you to move your feet more. Don't stand in front of him, okay? And double jab.
Don't you have one?
expecting that. The only thing going wrong, you're not throwing punches, champ. All right, man, let's go.
In his last fight on the undercard of Felix Trinidad versus Hugo Pineda in San Juan, Puerto Rico, May 29 of last year, Raul Frank was head-butted and suffered cuts above and below his left eye. The spot where they were treating him between rounds is identical to the spot. In fact, it's along the scar from last year's cut.
Right. Oh, let him up, let him up.
Yeah, it's interesting that Raul is not throwing hardly any right hands. Mostly what he's favoring is a left hook. He tries to kind of like fall in with his jab where he can get in range close enough to throw a left hook. But very seldom does he throw his right hand.
Work out, let him go, let him go.
Could that be a product of ring rust, Emmanuel?
I think the basic, you know, he doesn't have the good fluid footwork that a lot of the kids from the amateur program that we have here in America have. And what would be a big advantage for Vernon if he would just take a half a step back whenever Raul comes in and then punch. Because every time that he comes in, he kind of, we say, fumbles and falls in when he punches.
Vernon Bayless is going to have a lot of work if they keep falling into each other and holding like this.
And that's really I would say that the person is getting the disadvantage is basically Vernon. He's a much taller fighter and he should be utilizing his height much better than he's doing.
Frank holding on to Forrest every time he gets close. You saw Forrest land an extended right hand. There's another left hook to the body that backs Frank off.
But if Frank would come in and Vernon would just take that half a step back, he would not have much of a problem. In fact, it's getting to be almost a contest of left hooks for the most part.
Forrest launching a right hand across the top, and Frank makes a taunting comment to Forrest.
But I think the key punch in the fight to me would be if Vernon would just work his jab, and try to land a good straight right hand. Frank seems to be very vulnerable for a straight right hand, which surprises that Vernon hasn't thrown enough of.
Come on, let's see you work out. Work out. Right. Let's go home.
Uppercut from Forrest. Frank with a left hook to the body and then kind of sets himself and cringes as Forrest misses with the right. Two good body punches from Vernon Forrest there. Now Frank comes back to the body with the right and the left.
That's the right hand.
All right, baby, now that's the best round, okay? Now that's the best round. Now listen to me. Keep going behind that jab like that. Drove us on his nose, on his mouth. Okay. Look. Keep going behind the jab like that. And look, he don't like them body shots, all right? But you're giving us one. Give us two of them, okay? Not just one. And look, you're throwing it right here. Cross your blocks.
You hear what I just told you? Don't rub it hard, Pop. Just hold it there. Hold. Easy. All right. Spit there. Just spit on that bucket.
So far, Forrest has been throwing the harder, meaner intentioned fights. There you see a counter punch from Frank with by sticking out his tongue. He's going to have to start using his fists soon. And later in the round, a hard body shot. That left hook dug into Frank.
Let's get the water. Fellas, watch your heads. Watch your heads, guys. There we go.
Kenny Bayless asking the fighters to try to watch their heads.
Right. Hold on.
I always think, how can I watch my head? I'm fighting in front of it. And you heard Ronnie Shields asking Forrest to do what Manuel Stewart has suggested, simply work more behind the jab.
Come on.
The jab is the key to this fight. When you take the jab away, the fight is almost a toss-up.
Little counter left hook landed for Forrest inside. Yep. Ronnie Shields also telling Vernon Frank doesn't like it to the body. Not many fighters do.
Keep him up. Keep him up. Keep him up.
But I will say this about Frank. He's a very determined fighter. I can see that it's going to be a very tough fight. Unless he gets knocked out clean, injured, it's going to be a rough fight for Vernon. Even though he's much superior in every area,
step back clean, fellas.
He's still fighting a fight that's very determined. I'm, to some degree, maybe slightly surprised.
You can see why Bobby Jackson said of him, hey, this guy never puts in a bad fight.
Nope. And the first time that you ease up or slip a little bit with a fight like this, you can lose.
Vernon Forrest overshooting there with what could have been a dangerous right hand. One punch at a time by and large for both guys, except for those occasions when Forrest has worked combinations to the body. Neither puncher has landed an effective combination to the head. And there's a bad headbutt. Oh, bad headbutt. Forrest in pain, and Frank, as you can see, is down on the canvas. And a bad cut. Lots of blood.
It's conceivable we could have a
accidental, but
TD, and the technical draw possible.
Less than 4
Harold
rounds.
Letterman, what's the rule?
It's got to go 4 rounds. If it doesn't go 4, and we're in the 3rd round now, I believe the I.IBF calls it a no contest, but in essence it's a technical draw, so nobody wins.
So their terminology would be no contest.
No contest, yeah.
Same thing in effect.
Well, having seen the first 2.5 rounds, I'm not sure anybody wants to see this again, which would have to happen.
And Kenny Bayless is waving it off on advice from the doctor. No contest. Mark Ratner assuring us over the ropes, no contest, and that is just as Harold Letterman told you would be the case.
That's all right. We fight again on our card. Oh, no, it's all right, baby. Come here.
I just told him that. I said, what got up? I said, watch
Forrest was lucky to escape a cut there, and Frank broke open like
bring some ice.
The proverbial coconut.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it. Come on.
And the blood started to spurt.
Sit down, bro.
Well, that leaves a flat feeling,
no,
even flatter.
Yeah, and yet another delay in Vernon Forrest's attempted march to stardom, because he gets no championship belt here and now must continue to watch the deck shuffle in the welterweight division and wait for his opportunity. And let's take another look. Manny, what happened?
Well, basically we have two guys that keep colliding, and what happened, they both were going in throwing left hooks at the same time. I think that could have possibly been averted if Vernon Forrest had stayed in more of upright distance and jabbed more. He was leaning in too much, I think, for the boxing ability that he has, and that's what I was afraid would have happened.
Crowd responding to the video of this clash of heads.
Both throwing left hooks at the same time and coming forward.
If you're an ardent Raul Frank fan, you might say, why doesn't that be Why isn't that called an intentional headbutt? But the answer is Forrest was attempting a punch legitimately.
Yes, both guys were in the process of delivering left hooks. And the worst part about this, because of the severeness of the cut, it means it may be 4 months before they can fight. A cut to that degree may end up requiring possibly 2 or 3 months of rest before he could even resume training.
So it's justice delayed for Vernon Forrest, who has waited and waited for his moment on the stage in the welterweight division and now must wait some more.
This is so sad.
Perhaps to set up another fight with Raul Frank. Now let's go to Michael Buffer for the official particulars.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. In the ring, in the previous round, there was an unintentional and accidental clash of heads, resulting in a very severe laceration to Raul Frank. The bout cannot continue under the unified rules of the Joint Commissions. The bout is called no contest because it did not reach 4 complete rounds. We're very sorry. The contest, I'm sure, will be rescheduled. A round of applause, please, for Vernon Forrest and Raul Frank.
This is where you be stuck.
Sorry it happened. Can't wait to do it again.
Early scoring in the fight showed Raul Frank holding his own with Vernon Forrest. It was 19-19 on a couple of the cards. In both instances, judges had given Frank the first round. One of the 3 judges gave the first 2 rounds to Forrest, but nothing conclusive about the first 2 rounds of scoring in the fight. And so now, as you look at Raul Frank, and let's go to Larry Merchant with Vernon Forrest.
Thank you, Jim. Vernon, you waited so long for this opportunity. It must be awful frustrating.
Yeah, it's definitely. I train extremely hard. I trained too much, extremely hard in the mountains in Colorado. I was looking forward to becoming a world champion. And unfortunately, you know, it was an accident ahead. But I just like to thank God for blessing me. I'd like to thank Al Mitchell, Ronnie Shields, and Charles Watson for training me and giving me that first fight.
All right, describe to us what happened and why did it happen? Were you both falling into each other? Was it just a conflict of styles here?
Possibly a little bit of both. I think I was going for a body shot. My corner told me to start working the body more, and I dipped in. I went for the jab and I dipped in to throw a body shot, and we just clashed heads. But we had clashed heads a couple times before then, because every time I was going in, he'll duck in and kind of put his head in the way. So, you know, it was just unfortunate that happened.
All right, we're going to take a look at this in a moment. It just seemed like maybe you were looking at a mirror image of yourself in him in the ring.
Possibly. He was a very skilled fighter, and he came in to fight, and I knew that it was going to be a tough fight, but I was just trying to break him down, and you know, what can I say?
Do you feel that for as long as the fight went that you were accomplishing what you set out to accomplish?
Yeah, we didn't train for a knockout. We was going to break him down systematically. We was going to break him down each round. We was going to take a little something out of him, around 5th or 6th round we was going to knock him out. But like I said, it's unfortunate what happened.
Thanks very much, Vernon. Jim?
All right, thank you very much, Larry. Emmanuel, if you're training a fighter like Vernon Forrest and he has to wait and wait and wait for his chance to become a star, and now he'll have to wait some more, do you worry at some point that he's going to lose his edge in the gym and begin to slip in his skill level?
Definitely, especially when you consider the fact that the guy that he beat in the Olympic trials is not only a world champion today, he's a superstar, meaning Shane Mosley. It's got to be very frustrating for him. This fight right here, I could see it was going to be a very frustrating fight because both guys were tall, but they had a habit of basically getting into a left hook battle. And by throwing the hooks, it was both banging heads continually. I think in a rematch, if Vernon boxes and keeps a distance a little bit better, he'll come out a little bit better than this fight.
Well, let's see what Raul Frank thinks of that as we go back to Larry Merchant in the ring.
All right, Jim, thank you. Raul, describe what you felt happened and what led to that clash of heads.
I was going to throw, I think it was a left uppercut, while Vernon just leaned forward, you know, and pushed his head right at me. And I think it was an intentional headbutt.
Thank you. Thank you.
You thought that was intentional?
He butted him in the first and the second.
Why would he want to intentionally headbutt you and have the end of a
way.
fight?
He
I
fights
mean,
that
explain
way.
that to us.
He fights with his head
He's
down.
supposed to be the top guy, the 20-to-1. I'm the 20-to-1 long shot, and I felt his strength, you know.
So
and
wait,
in later
wait,
rounds,
excuse me,
rounds,
I'm doing this
And you're
interview.
doing a bad job.
All right, thank you, and you're doing a great job.
Yeah, I always have.
Why would, if he's a 20-to-1 favorite, and you describe what you see here, why would he have to resort to this? He was just trying to throw a buddy shot.
I was waiting for the later rounds to come on. That's what we planned. From round 4, I would completely take over this fight. You know, but I'm just disappointed, and I'm sorry. You know, I want to tell my fans back home in Guyana, I'm very sorry
You did a
about
great
this.
job.
But
You
the next
waited
time when we get back into this ring,
And we will get back
definitely
in the
I'm
ring.
taking home the title.
You waited a long time for this.
Very long
and
time. I trained since February. You know, I did my training since February for this fight. And I'm so disappointed. It's unbelievable what could happen in a short space of time, you know.
We're all disappointed.
Disqualified.
Good luck
That's
next
what's gonna
time.
happen to him.
All right, Jim.
No, disqualified.
Frank's emotional manager is a man from Miami named Al Banani. Now, we've got another big fight coming up in just a little bit as Fernando Vargas gets ready to go into the ring to defend his version of the junior middleweight crown against a much lesser known mandatory challenger named Ross Thompson. Vargas looking down the road toward a possible huge pay-per-view fight with Felix Trinidad this December. Let's look ahead to some upcoming programs here on HBO. For boxing, mark these dates on your calendar. September 2, Boxing After Dark offers a doubleheader as junior lightweight champion Diego Corrales takes on Angel Manfredi, and Eric Morales continues toward a possible future date with Nassim Hamed, taking on Kevin Kelly. September 9, it's a unique night of boxing. On HBO, KO Nation returns with Clifford Etienne and Bronco McCart in a rematch against Winky Wright. Later that same night on TVKO pay-per-view, undisputed light heavyweight champion Roy Jones travels to New Orleans to take on Eric Harding, and Derek Gainer goes up against Freddie Norwood. It's football season again.